A community in Pickering is reeling after a horrific stabbing attack. Neighbors identify the victim as a retired teacher in her 80s, and a 14-year-old boy is now charged with first-degree murder. We're live at the scene tonight.
And a teenage girl has been found guilty of manslaughter in the fatal swarming attack of a homeless man in 2022. Reaction to the verdict, that's coming up.
Plus, get ready for a painful drive. The Gardner and DVP are both shutting down this weekend for the annual Bike for Brain Health event. Will help you try to navigate your way around the city.
This is Live at 5. Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latifat. Thanks for joining us and welcome to Live at 5. We begin with the tragedy in Pickering this hour, where a community has been rocked by an unprovoked stabbing that left an elderly woman dead.
A 14-year-old boy has now been charged with first-degree murder. Our coverage begins with CP24 Sija Liu, who's following the latest. Sija.
Hi, Bakari and Lena. We're getting some new details today of what was behind this tragic homicide. We're learning that a 14-year-old teenage boy was arrested last night, and he is being charged with first-degree murder. Now, his identity can't be released under the Youth Criminal Justice Act, but police do say he is a local, that he is a resident of Pickering. He made a brief appearance in court today, but the big question police still have is, what is the motive behind this? Why the random attack? They still believe this was something unprovoked at this time. Police still haven't been able to find anything that connects the victim to the suspect prior to the attack. Now, the identity of the victim is still not being released at this time, but neighbors tell us it was an older lady in her 80s. She was a retired kindergarten teacher. It was around 3 yesterday afternoon when she was gardening outside her home on Lynn Heights Drive, a quiet neighborhood in Pickering. She was approached by a stranger and stabbed multiple times. She was rushed to the hospital where she unfortunately died of her injuries. That suspect then ran away eastbound, and the description police first gave was that it was a male, brown. He was wearing a long trench coat, and then it was all hands on deck for the manhunt to try to bring the suspect in. Durham Regional Police called in help from Toronto and nearby jurisdictions. They called in specialty teams. They had K9 units, drones searching this heavily wooded area. And then an emergency alert went out around 5:45 to people across the GTA, telling folks to shelter in place, especially those in the area. The city of Pickering also made the decision to shut down public facilities for the night and all community programming. And then it was around 8:30 at night when police arrested the suspect. And then an hour later, they told us that it was a teenage boy. Here's more from Durham Regional Police on why they took those steps to issue the shelter-in-place alert and shut down public facilities.
So when it comes down to the emergency alert, we have to make sure that the information we have is accurate. We have to make sure it's reliable information, and we have to make sure that the alert is warranted. And all of that takes a period of time to be able to piece together what happened. As you can imagine, when this initially happened, we had very little information to go on. So we take emergency alerts very seriously. We understand the impact that they have on our community. We understand that the fear that they may cause, so we don't release them lightly. And part of that is to determine what is actually factual before we release that information. And then there is a process where we communicate with the OPP, who in turn releases that alert.
And surveillance video has been very helpful to police in this investigation. They told us that part of the attack was caught on camera, which is why they were able to get that suspect description. And since then, we've also been sent in video from different neighbors of the suspect who was in the area, possibly a few days before the attack. Durham police do tell us that is something they are looking to. But of course, anyone with additional video or information on this case is being asked to contact police.
All right, Sija Liu reporting live tonight. Sija, thanks so much. Let's take you live to the crime scene now. That is where we find CP24's Arda Zakarian. You've been speaking with neighbors from the area. Arda.
And Lena and Bakari, neighbors, are visibly shaken. They are just reeling from the fact that this actually happened. It is an absolute nightmare. This unprovoked, random, sadistic attack that police are saying happened right in front of her home. This woman that neighbors describe as a lovely lady, 80 years old, a retired kindergarten teacher. We had a chance to speak with the mayor of Pickering, who says Pickering is really a small town with a heart, and everybody is feeling this. And we also had a chance to speak with someone who laid flowers in front of the home today.
Her husband is in a wheelchair, and she looked after him, was a caregiver. So this is impacting a family emotionally right now, but we all, as we get older, have to worry about aging parents and looking after them. And they've asked me for some help today, and I'll reach out to provide anything I can in terms of that.
To hear what had happened, I think it's absolutely terrible and disgusting. Breaks my heart as a mother, and having a mother as elderly. It's torn families apart, and it breaks my heart, and hope everything's gonna be okay for the family, and I hope that she rests in peace.
And there is video of a male matching the description of the suspect, wearing all black, black gloves, a black trench coat, walking around the neighborhood at the time of the stabbing. Neighbors did notice this man walking around, this boy rather, walking around, and they did think to themselves that that's unusual, what he's wearing, how he's behaving. Of course, now that it has all happened, it's a reality that one of their neighbors has been murdered on this street. It is very disturbing. Back to you.
Okay, CP24's Arta Zakarian continuing our team coverage of this tragedy in Pickering. Arta, thank you. Well, a teen girl has been found guilty of manslaughter in the deadly group attack on a homeless man downtown.
The girl, who was 14 at the time of the attack, had originally been charged with second-degree murder in Kenneth Lee's death. Today, this afternoon, a judge found the teen not guilty of second-degree murder, saying he wasn't convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that the girl had the state of mind required for murder. The 59-year-old Lee was swarmed and attacked in a downtown parkette in 2022. 7 of 8 girls arrested in the case pleaded guilty to lesser charges. And for more on this development, we're joined live now by criminal defense lawyer Lydia Riva. Thank you so much for joining us, Lydia. It's good to see you. So this teen girl was found not guilty of murder. Does that surprise you?
It doesn't, in the sense that the mens rea for murder is that the Crown has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the accused had the intent to kill or the intent to cause bodily harm that she knew would likely cause death and be reckless of that. The state of mind for manslaughter, however, is less. It's the intent to commit an unlawful act, in this case an assault, and the assault has to be objectively dangerous. So it is a high burden, proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and the trial judge found that the Crown had not met its very high burden in this case.
Okay, so Ms. Riva, there are other defendants right here. Their fate is still up in the air. How will this impact what happens in those cases, or will it?
If the defendant in this case was somehow called against them to testify, that could make an impact. The trial judge in this case was considering the particular mental element or the mens rea of this defendant. And so in that sense, the triers of fact in the other cases are going to have to make the same determinations about those defendants, whether or not they had the state of mind for murder or manslaughter.
Bakari just brought up the other girls charged with swarming Kenneth Lee. Are we ever going to see anybody found guilty of actually stabbing him?
That I don't know. I know that in this case, the defense had raised the fact that the Crown could not prove that this accused person had done the stabbing. It's not uncommon in cases, especially when there's more than one defendant, in this case, a swarming or an alleged swarming, that we're never going to really know the answers to those questions. But this accused person is going to be she's going to be held accountable. She is going to be sentenced, and she's convicted of a serious offense, which is manslaughter.
And, when this happened, we're talking about minors here. So let's talk about the sentencing, youth sentence versus adults. especially with respect to the victim's family.
The Crown policy is that in the case of murder and manslaughter, the Crown must seek an adult sentence unless they get special permission not to. And the difference between an adult sentence and youth sentence is significant in the case of manslaughter. In the case of manslaughter for a youth, maximum sentence is 3 years. But for an adult, it's life in prison. So it's quite a discrepancy. In order for the Crown to pursue an adult sentence, they have to bring notice before the arraignment of the defendant. And those are significant that's a significant sentence, obviously, life in prison or an adult sentence for manslaughter, if that in fact is the finding.
Okay, criminal defense lawyer Lydia Riva, good to get your perspective on this and your expertise. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, it's 5:10. Let's check on the evening commute with CP24's traffic specialist, Adjoa Ntia-Yeboah. There's going to be a lot of headaches this weekend. How about Friday?
Yeah, there's headaches right now if you're making your way out on the major routes, running into some brand new problems. Just spotting it on camera now. So if you're on the 401 headed eastbound, this is in the collectors just as you make around the approach to Renforth. You'll find the center lane blocked with the collision involving a transport truck. So trying to start your weekend right, it's going to take you a while. Already seeing a backlog now. It does extend from the 410 in the collectors. If you can use the express, I'd suggest where you want to be. On to the Don Valley Parkway northbound. It's also pretty busy, starting from approaching Don Mills up to the 401. You get a bit of a break and then gets busier again as you head into Richmond Hill. Starting from Highway 7, everything seems to open up past Elgin Mills and still jammed on the Gardner as you make your way into and head out of the downtown core. But it is just volume delays and because of the long-term road work. On city streets, crews on scene of a collision blocking lanes on Leslie and Steeles. I'll send it back to you both.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
Well, thanks so much. And let's stay on the roads because cyclists, they're going to be hitting them in Toronto for a really good cause this weekend.
Thousands of riders are going to take over the DVP and Gardner for the Bike for Brain Health. It'll be Sunday. Proceeds go to support research at Baycrest to improve care for people living with Alzheimer's and dementia. Riders will bike along the Gardner and then head up to the Don Valley Parkway. The highways are going to be closed starting at 12 a.m. Sunday.
Also downtown this weekend, We Walk United takes place Saturday.
The event is the UHN Foundation's first public fundraising walk. Participants have an option of a 5K or 2K walk. The accessible route passes 4 UHN hospitals, and then it ends in a celebration at Toronto General Hospital with live entertainment by Tom Cochran. Roads in the area, including a portion of Dundas Street between Bay and Bathurst, is going to be closed between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m.
Over at Queen's Park, Premier Doug Ford spoke to reporters after meeting with the Canada-U.S. Trade Council as the trade war sparked by President Donald Trump's tariffs continues.
Okay, let's go to the newsroom for live coverage from CP24's Lindsay Biscaya. Lindsay.
And that's really what all these meetings are about, Lena and Bakari, is because of those ongoing tariffs that have been imposed by the U.S. on Canada. And so today's meeting really was basically almost a look ahead before this big meeting on Sunday in Saskatchewan, where Premier Doug Ford is going to go meet with the other premiers of Canada, as well as the Prime Minister, Mark Carney. And this whole meeting on Sunday is to discuss nation-building projects to fuel economic growth, obviously in light of these tariffs. So today, it was really industry stakeholders expressing their concerns in the Premier's office in Ontario about the tariffs that are imposed by the U.S., how it's affecting them. And Premier Doug Ford said it was a really constructive meeting. He said he now has what he called a lot of ammunition to bring forward to this meeting on Sunday. Take a listen.
I think a priority is to bring the whole country together. The previous government, the previous Prime Minister, didn't show enough love, in my opinion, to Alberta and Saskatchewan. We have to be a united country. I had a great conversation with Premier Moe this morning. He's quite excited to host us there, and it's going to be a very, very productive meeting, but it's all about working collaboratively together and uniting our country.
Now, the Premier has said that he does have some top priorities when it comes to nation building. His top 2 priorities, he said today, are the Ring of Fire and nuclear projects. He wants to build another nuclear facility in Ontario. And no doubt Bill 5 will probably be another discussion coming up this weekend because that's what the Premier wants to use for a lot of his top priorities in Ontario. But again, all eyes now on this meeting, which is happening in Sunday. And it's actually the first nations meeting to be held in Saskatoon. It was suggested by Prime Minister Mark Carney. So it's going to be interesting to see how all of that unfolds too. Back to you.
And the Premier says he now has ammunition to take to that meeting. Lindsay Biscaya reporting live. Thanks, Lindsay. 5:14, 24 degrees out there. Quite pleasant weather-wise. You're watching Live at 5.
And Toronto's mayor is providing more details about her meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney as she continues her trip in Ottawa. More details just ahead.
Welcome back, Mayor Olivia Chow. She is still in Ottawa for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference and says she had a conversation with Prime Minister Mark Carney about getting more affordable housing built.
I said to the Prime Minister that I've waited for several decades to finally see a government that are coming back to building housing. You see President of the FCM also nodding. We've been asking at the FCM and the City of Toronto and myself personally that please, the federal government have a role to play to build housing. So we're extremely pleased that that is in the throne speech and that is what the Prime Minister said that he would do.
And Chow met with Federal Housing Minister Gregor Robertson on Parliament Hill earlier this week as well. The purpose of the talks was to discuss getting more homes built faster in Toronto. Chow also had meetings with other officials to discuss the city's priorities for the federal government.
And Prime Minister Mark Carney addressed big city mayors in Ottawa today. That includes Olivia Chow. The PM focused on challenges the government is facing on the economic front.
We will work with you to slash development charges in half for all multi-unit housing over the next 5 years, alongside the provinces and territories, while making, crucial point, while making municipalities whole through federal investments in water, power lines, and wastewater.
And the federal government is developing a national interest bill to fast-track nation-building projects. A document obtained by the Canadian Press says that the legislation would lay out the criteria. Once that's decided, a single federal minister will be named to oversee a review process, laying out how the project can be built.
5:18, 23 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Well, coming up, Saskatchewan has joined Manitoba in declaring a province-wide state of emergency. The latest on the impact of the raging wildfires. That's after the break. Two provinces are now under states of emergency due to wildfires.
Saskatchewan has joined Manitoba in declaring a province-wide state of emergency, with Premier Scott Moe calling it a very serious situation. More than 4,000 Saskatchewan residents have been forced from their homes by wildfires in the province's remote northeast, and Manitoba's Premier Wap Kinew made the emergency declaration on Wednesday as fires in that province forced 17,000 people from their homes, including all residents of Flin Flon.
Well, also, Environment Canada has issued special air quality statements for much of northwestern Ontario due to out-of-control wildfires burning across the province and in western Canada. The weather agency says shifting winds and changing weather patterns are likely to bring the smoke from the fires into southern Ontario throughout the weekend.
And Dave Phillips, Environment Canada's senior climatologist, talked about the possibility of the smoke from the wildfires heading into Toronto.
So far, we've just been sort of innocent bystanders to these huge fires in the West. There's been smoke from them that have caused mass evacuations in the West. And some of that smoke has come eastward, but moved across northern Ontario, central Quebec, to Labrador, parts of Atlantic Canada, and out to the Atlantic. But so far, it's not affected sort of built-up areas or populated centers. But that has changed because the weather has changed and also the shifting winds have changed. For example, in Toronto, we had yesterday more southerly winds. This morning they were more westerly, and now about noon they become west-northwest.
U.S. President Donald Trump talked to reporters today alongside Elon Musk. This was on Musk's last day at the Oval Office.
That was a very bizarre press conference. The president thanking the billionaire for his government cost-cutting efforts as he departs from the Trump administration. Musk joined it as a so-called special government employee, the 130-day mandate of which was set to expire around May 30th. So a really short stint.
I just want to thank Elon for his time as a special government employee. Can you imagine? They call him an employee, but it's a special government employee, and for coming and helping us. And he really has changed the mindset of a lot of people. A lot of people thought maybe we'll cut 1% or 2% or 3%. Then they said, well, we can cut a lot more than that. And we're going to do it very surgically. We're going to continue on the march. We're making America great again.
And Trump and Musk, they've also had their fair share of friction along the way, the most recent stemming from the administration's tax and budget legislation, coined one big, beautiful bill. So Musk had criticized the bill's price tag.
It is now 5:23, 23 degrees out there. You're watching Live at 5.
And coming up, youth from across the GTA gathered at Sam Wedlow Park this afternoon for a special Jay's Care Foundation event. Those details are after the break.
Welcome back. The Blue Jays are going to be looking for another win when their series against the Athletics continues tonight.
School graduation of his daughter, so he is away for a couple of days as Ernie Clement lifts it, drives it, and hits it out.
Toronto put up 8 runs yesterday in the second inning, led by Ernie Clement, who kicked off the scoring with a 3-run homer to left. He would finish the game with a total of 5 RBIs as the Jays defeated the Athletics 12-0. The game starts at 7:07.
And speaking of the Jays, their Care Foundation hosted dozens of children at an East End park today.
More than 90 Indigenous children and youth from across the GTA gathered at Sam Wedlow Park this afternoon for the Jays Cares Spring Classic Baseball Tournament. The attendees are a part of the Jays Cares Indigenous Rookie League program. So the young athletes, they took part in a variety of baseball activities and activations.
We all care deeply about making sure that kids who face barriers get the chance to play sport. And we want to unlock opportunities for them because we know that kids who get the chance to play in really positive sports environments go on to have more self-confidence, more courage to try new things, and just feel better about their hopefulness for the future. So we want to unlock that, and that's why we're working with more than 2,000 schools this year and hoping to work with even more in the future.
Oh, love that. The event wrapped up around 1 p.m.
Right now it's 5:28, 23 degrees. This is Live at 5.
A 14-year-old boy is facing a first-degree murder charge after the stabbing of an elderly woman yesterday afternoon. More on the investigation and reaction from neighbors coming up.
A community in Pickering is reeling after a horrific stabbing attack. Neighbors identify the victim as a retired teacher in her 80s, and a 14-year-old boy is now charged with first-degree murder. We're live with coverage tonight.
And a teenage girl has been found guilty of manslaughter, but not second-degree murder in the fatal swarming attack of a homeless man in 2022. Reaction to that verdict, that's coming up.
Plus, get ready for a painful drive. The Gardner and DVP are both shutting down this weekend. It's for the annual Bike for Brain Health event. We're going to try to help you navigate your way around the city.
You're watching Live at 5. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lena Latafat.
And I'm Bakari Savage. We begin with the tragedy in Pickering. This is where a community has been rocked by an unprovoked stabbing attack that's left an elderly woman dead.
And a 14-year-old boy has now been charged with first-degree murder. Our coverage begins with CP24's Sija Liu, who's following the latest on the investigation. Sija.
Hi, Lena. That's right. We're learning more from police on what led to this tragic attack and who may be behind it. A 14-year-old teenage boy has been arrested in connection to the killing of a senior woman. He was charged with first-degree murder and made a brief court appearance today. His identity cannot be released considering he's a minor under the Youth Criminal Justice Act, but police do tell us he is a local from Pickering. A big question a lot of people in the community and police have tonight is the motive behind this apparent random attack. Right now, police say they still haven't found anything that connects the victim to the suspect. They're also not releasing the identity of the suspect just yet, but we're learning from neighbors that it is a woman in her 80s who is being remembered as kind, and she was a retired kindergarten teacher. It was around 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon when she was gardening outside her home on Lynn Heights Drive. This is a quiet neighborhood in the city of Pickering. She was approached by a stranger who stabbed her multiple times. She was rushed to a trauma center in Toronto, but unfortunately did not survive. That suspect then ran away eastbound, and the description police put out at the time was that it was a male, brown. He was wearing a long trench coat down to his ankles. And then shortly after, it was an all hands on deck effort to bring the suspect in. Durham Regional Police called in help from Toronto along with other jurisdictions. They sent out specialty teams, drones, canine units, doing all they can to bring the suspect in. They also put out an emergency alert shortly before 6 o'clock, warning residents to shelter in place, letting them know that a suspect was on the loose. The city of Pickering also shut down its public facilities and community areas for the night. Those places have since reopened. And then it was around 8:30 at night when police announced that they arrested the suspect. Now, we have been hearing reports from some of our viewers and people in the neighborhood that the suspect was in the area days before the attack. Surveillance video shows a male that matches the description police gave. Here's more from Durham Regional Police on that possible lead, as well as public safety analyst Chris Lewis on what may have been behind a 14-year-old possibly doing this terrible act.
So we're looking into reports. We are aware of some reports that he was seen in the area. Any connection to this area and any connection to this victim, we are still looking at. As of right now, I can still tell you this appears to be a random attack, and we do have no connection between the victim as well as the male that's in custody.
When a 14-year-old kills an elderly woman with multiple stab wounds, there has to be a mental health issue involved at some level. So they're going to do a very deep dive into him like it would in any suspect in terms of who he hangs out with, who he talks to, his family, his background, his medical health history, or his mental health history, social media presence, any groups he may be involved with and speaking to.
It is still very early on in the investigation, but police say surveillance video that people have shown them has been very helpful. Part of the attack was captured on camera, which was how they were able to get that suspect description. And since then, police say various witnesses have come forward with surveillance video. So Lena Bakari, of course, anyone with information at this time is being told to contact police. Even though they have a suspect in custody, it is still very on in their investigation.
All right, Sija Liu reporting live tonight on that horrific stabbing attack in Pickering. Sija, thanks so much. Yesterday, we heard police refer to the attack as a sadistic and cowardly one. We know there's been so much reaction from the community. Many say they are heartbroken. We also heard from the mayor of Pickering today, Kevin Ash, who says his people are shocked.
We are a city of 118,000, but we're really a small town at heart. And when something happens like this, it's surprising, it's shocking. When one member of our community is hurt or suffering, we all hurt. And nothing is as shocking as the randomness of the violence that took place on the front steps yesterday.
A teen girl has been found guilty of manslaughter in the deadly group attack on a homeless man in downtown Toronto.
The girl, who was 14 at the time of the attack, had originally been charged with second-degree murder in Kenneth Lee's death. Today, a judge found the teen not guilty of second-degree murder, saying he wasn't convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that the girl had the state of mind required for murder. The 59-year-old Lee was swarmed and attacked in a downtown parkette in 2022. 7 of 8 girls arrested in the case pleaded guilty to lesser charges. We just spoke with criminal defense lawyer Lydia Riva in the last half hour about the possible sentence the teen girl could possibly receive.
The Crown policy is that in the case of murder and manslaughter, the Crown must seek an adult sentence unless they get special permission not to. And the difference between an adult sentence and youth sentence is significant in the case of manslaughter. In the case of manslaughter for a youth, maximum sentence is 3 years. But for an adult, it's life in prison. So it's quite a discrepancy. In order for the Crown to pursue an adult sentence, they have to bring notice before the arraignment of the defendant. And those are significant. That's a significant sentence, obviously, life in prison or an adult sentence for manslaughter. If that.
And a man's been arrested in connection with the child luring investigation in Toronto.
61-year-old Bonnie Williams is accused of communicating online with an individual under the age of 16. He allegedly went by the online identities of Looking for F, Dan, and Gentleman 30095. He faces a number of charges, including 2 counts of luring a person under 16. Police are concerned there may be more victims, and they're asking anybody with information to come forward.
Okay, it's 5:37. Let's get a check on the roads. And for that, we turn to CP24's traffic specialist, Adjoa. No such thing as rush hour.
Hey, Bakari, it does continue, unfortunately, to be a pretty ram-jam drive out there, a gnarly drive at that if you're on the northbound lanes of the 404. This is near the 407. Collision started out in the HOV lane. Emergency crews came on scene. Now they're blocking the left. And then a separate problem has the right lane of the end of the on-ramp from the 407 blocked. So not the easiest drive for commuters heading on the northbound 404. Already quite the backlog. It does extend from well before Don Mills. Also pretty busy on the eastbound lanes of the 401 in the collectors. As you head from the 410, you continue to pass Dixie. Can blame it on this collision involving a transport. Heavy tow just arrived on scene, so a good sign this may be clearing. And even more problems happening on the Toronto-bound lanes of the QEW. It's at the start of the ramp that takes you to Erin Mills Parkway. Crews dealing with a collision that does have a couple of vehicles involved, and it is the 2 right lanes blocked. On city streets, crews on scene of a collision on Lawrence and Midland. I'll send it back to you both.
All right, Adjoa, thanks so much. Let's stay on the roads now. A portion of the 407 is going to be toll-free starting Sunday.
Yeah, as of June 1st, tolls from the provincially owned section of Highway 407, that's between Brock Road and Highway 35 and 115, it's going to be removed. The majority of the highway will continue to be operated and tolled by a private company.
Cyclists will be hitting the roads in Toronto for a very good cause this weekend.
Thousands of riders will take over the DVP and the Gardner for the Bike for Brain Health. It's Sunday. Proceeds go to support research at Baycrest to improve care for people living with Alzheimer's and dementia. Riders will bike along the Gardner and then head up to the Don Valley Parkway. The highways will be closed starting at 12 a.m. Sunday.
Yeah, that is going to be a very tricky drive. Also downtown this weekend, We Walk United takes place Saturday.
The event is the UHN Foundation's first public fundraising walk. Participants have an option of a 5K or 2K walk. The accessible route passes 4 UHN hospitals. It ends with a celebration at Toronto General Hospital with live entertainment by Tom Cochran. Roads in the area, including a portion of Dundas Street between Bay and Bathurst, are going to be closed between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m.
Well, over at Queen's Park, Premier Doug Ford spoke to reporters after meeting with the Canada-U.S. Trade Council as the trade war sparked by President Donald Trump's tariffs drags on.
Okay, let's go to the newsroom to check in with CP24's Lindsay Biscaya for a recap. Lindsay.
So this really, the meeting for today, Lena and Bakari, was a chance for industry stakeholders to come to the Premier's office and kind of share their grievances and talk about their concerns when it comes to these U.S. tariffs that have been imposed on Canada. So this was really a meeting for the Premier, Doug Ford, to listen before a much bigger meeting, which is happening on Sunday in Saskatchewan between Premiers and Prime Minister Mark Carney to talk about so-called nation-building projects to try to strengthen Canada's economy. Obviously, this is a big conversation right now because of these tariffs. So Doug Ford listening to these industry stakeholders today, and he said afterwards to reporters that this meeting was very good, it was very constructive, and that he now has so-called ammunition to bring with him when he goes to this meeting in Saskatoon on Sunday. Here's more on what the Premier had to say about all the different provinces still signing on for various agreements.
We have an MOU signed with New Brunswick and Nova Scotia and Manitoba. Our conversation with Scott Moe, he's excited about signing an MOU as soon as we arrive on Sunday. PEI is coming on board, and Alberta's coming on board. We'll be working with BC. We'll be working, I've been talking to Francois Legault, and we look forward to sitting down with Quebec as well.
And Doug Ford also says he does have, of course, some priorities, some very main priorities and 2 top priorities when it comes to these meetings on Sunday in terms of strengthening Ontario's economy, which he hopes will strengthen Canada's economy overall. Those 2 top priorities are the Ring of Fire and nuclear projects. He does want to build another nuclear facility in Ontario. Of course, a lot of this, there's another priority as well, the tunnel under the 401, for example. A lot of these priorities by Doug Ford will include Bill 5, which has been an ongoing conversation over the last week here in Ontario. And no doubt that that might come up as well on Sunday in meetings between the premiers and Prime Minister Mark Carney. So we'll have to wait. All eyes on that meeting on Sunday. It's a big one, and it's also the first one that Saskatoon has ever hosted. So we'll wait and see what comes out of that as well.
All right, Lindsay, thanks so much. It's 5:42, 23 degrees. You're watching Live at 5 on Toronto's Breaking News, CP24.
Toronto's mayor is providing more details about her meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney. This is as she continues her trip in Ottawa. More details just ahead.
Welcome back. Mayor Olivia Chow still in Ottawa for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference and says she did have a conversation with Prime Minister Mark Carney about getting more affordable housing built.
He's going to set up an agency that will build housing in partnership, of course, with municipalities. But while that is being set up, we were exploring ways to reduce the cost of building housing. And that's where the development charges and all the exemptions that the municipality can offer.
Chow met with Federal Housing Minister Gregor Robertson on Parliament Hill earlier this week as well. The purpose of the talks was to discuss getting more homes built faster in Toronto. Chow also had meetings with other officials to discuss the city's priorities for the federal government.
And the Prime Minister talked about those meetings with big city mayors like Olivia Chow. The Prime Minister focusing on challenges the government is facing on the economic front, including the housing crisis. Here's more from him.
Our collaboration between the federal government and municipalities, all municipalities, is more important than ever as we are at a hinge moment in Canada's history. It is a more dangerous and divided world, unfortunately. Geopolitical risks are rising, and they are threatening our sovereignty. The global trading system, which has helped power Canada's prosperity for decades, is undergoing the biggest transformation since the fall of the Berlin Wall.
The federal government is developing a national interest bill to fast-track nation-building projects. A document obtained by the Canadian Press says that the legislation would lay out the criteria. Once that's decided, a single federal minister would be named to oversee a review process, laying out how the project can be built.
Well, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says his party will vote against the Liberal government's $486 billion spending plan, claiming it'll pump too much money into bureaucracy.
This week, Mark Carney introduced $500 billion of spending with no budget. The first time that has happened in decades. Not only that, but he's increasing government spending by 8%, with the lion's share of that spending going to bloated bureaucracy, consultants, and contractors.
And the proposed spending was introduced on Tuesday. It was brought forward after the Carney government announced it would not table a budget until the fall. That decision has also been criticized by the Conservatives, and Poilievre is calling on the Liberals to present a budget this spring.
Toronto Metropolitan University researchers are calling for action to tackle growing food insecurity in the city's Black community.
Data reveals the demographic is 3.5 times more likely to experience food insecurity than white communities. Statistics Canada figures show food insecurity among the Black population increased 20% from 2021 to 2023. The TMU researchers say difficulty accessing culturally appropriate foods and stigma are some of the issues that need to be addressed.
Often we assume that food security, or that folks who are food insecure should more or less accept, the food that's available to them. Right. But dignity and having access to food that's of a high quality, that's accessed in a space and in a way that makes people feel respected, and that is of a high degree of quality, is also a really important way to motivate people to access these types of programs.
The researchers will present their findings from more than 95 focus groups and 250 surveys at a conference in Toronto this weekend.
It's 5:48, 23 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Still to come, Saskatchewan has joined Manitoba in declaring a province-wide state of emergency, and we've got a couple of air quality statements in Ontario to tell you about as well. Stay with us.
Two provinces are now under states of emergency due to wildfires.
Saskatchewan has joined Manitoba in declaring a province-wide state of emergency, with Premier Scott Moe calling it a very serious situation. More than 4,000 Saskatchewan residents have been forced from their homes by wildfires in the province's remote northeast. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew made the emergency declaration on Wednesday as fires in the province forced 17,000 people from their homes, including all residents of Flin Flon.
Well, Environment Canada has issued special air quality statements for much of northwestern Ontario due to out-of-control wildfires burning across the province and in western Canada. The weather agency says shifting winds and changing weather patterns are likely to bring the smoke from the fires into southern Ontario throughout the weekend.
And Dave Phillips, Environment Canada's senior climatologist, talked about the possibility of the smoke from the wildfires heading into Toronto.
We're not seeing that for the Toronto area, but it is sort of the model suggests that that smoke will start coming in about maybe about 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock tonight. Although there is rain in the forecast, slight chance, 30% chance with thunderstorms. But hey, the weather, the winds, the cooler air will kick out the smoke by, say, noon tomorrow. So it's a question of, yes, thousands actually, or hundreds see the flames, but millions smell the smoke, and so we're going to smell it.
In international news, Israel has reportedly accepted a U.S. proposal for a temporary ceasefire in the Gaza Strip.
The White House says Israel backed and supported the new proposal, while Hamas officials say they want to study it more closely before giving a formal answer. A top Hamas official says that the proposal does not respond to any of their people's demands, foremost among which is stopping the war and famine. So Hamas militants continue to hold 58 hostages who were taken October 7, 2023, but only a third of them are believed to still be alive.
And former U.S. President Joe Biden spoke to reporters following his recent cancer diagnosis.
This is the first time that Biden has spoken in public about his condition since announcing he's been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer 2 weeks ago. Biden says he has begun treatment under the guidance of a top doctor in the country.
Prognosis is good, We're working on everything. It's moving along. I feel good. It's all a matter of taking a pill, one particular pill. And for the next 6 weeks, we'll do another one. The expectation is we're going to be able to beat this.
Comments come after Biden delivered remarks at a Memorial Day service in Newcastle, Delaware.
It's 5:54, 23 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, youth from across the GTA gathered at Stan Wadlow Park this afternoon for a special Jay's Care Foundation event. We'll tell you all about it next. Welcome back. American actress Loretta Swit has died at the age of 87.
Out of my way, Pierce. I'm going to kick every can in this.
She was one of the longest-serving cast members on the hit TV series MASH, as where she played the role of Major Margaret Houlihan. Swit was nominated for numerous awards in her career and earned 2 Emmy Awards. Publicist says that the actress died at her home in New York City, likely from natural causes.
Well, the Blue Jays will be looking for another win when their series against the Athletics continues tonight.
School graduation of his daughter, so he is away for a couple of days as Ernie Clement lifts it, drives it, and hits it out.
Well, Toronto put up 8 runs yesterday in the second inning, led by Ernie Clement, who kicked off the scoring with a 3-run homer to left. He would finish the game with a total of 5 RBIs as the Jays defeated the Athletics 12-0. The game starts at 7:07.
And speaking of the Jays, the team's Care Foundation hosted dozens of children at an East End park today.
More than 90 Indigenous children and youth from across the GTA gathered at Stan Wadlow Park this afternoon for the Jays Cares Spring Classic Baseball Tournament. The attendees are part of the Jays Cares Indigenous Rookie League program. The young athletes took part in a variety of baseball activities and activations.
We all care deeply about making sure that kids who face barriers get the chance to play sport. And we want to unlock opportunities for them because we know that kids who get the chance to play in really positive sports environments go on to have more self-confidence, more courage to try new things, and just feel better about their hopefulness for the future. So we want to unlock that, and that's why we're working with more than 2,000 schools this year and hoping to work with even more in the future.
This is such a great initiative, and I'm sure it means so much to the Indigenous community. It was really a great event, and it all wrapped up around 1 p.m.
Right now it's 5:59, 23 degrees. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. CTV News at 6 is coming up next. Have a great weekend, everyone.